Welcome to CEO Conversations, the private practice podcast. I'm your host, Brandy Mabra. This is your one-stop shop to learn the business side of your practice on a deeper level. On this show, we empower you to own your CEO status to scale your practice for growth, sustainability, and profit. Listen in as we talk about how to market your practice to gain more visibility, hire, build, and engage your ride or die dream team, create streamlined operations, and make financial decisions as a CEO. It's time to show up as a confident leader to create a practice and life you love. Let's get started. Hello. Welcome to another episode of CEO Conversations, the private practice podcast. It's Brandy, and I'm actually recording from my office. So normally we have one day that we batch out multiple podcast episodes, and I'm always in a studio at this point in time. But because there just felt like a sense of urgency for me to record this, I wanted to go ahead and do it from my office. So just to set the scene for what's happening, I'm at my desk, I got my water, I got my snacks, and we're going to be diving in. And I've done that on purpose for me because this topic, I know there are so many different emotions that we're feeling. We have officially gone through the change of administration, and I want to come from a place of not doom and gloom, but from a place of leadership, right? And I think that that's important, especially as we're stepping into an unknown of the 4 years that we're getting ready to go through together, as healthcare professionals, as entrepreneurs, as business owners. And today's episode is for us to concentrate on 4 things that we're going to do as we're navigating the waters to make sure that we are set up for success and that we're good, right? And so this definitely goes out to people of color. I'm not even gonna lie, some of the things that I am seeing and just marginalized communities in general. Like it's just, oh wow. I mean, there is a lot. There's a lot that we are having to digest. There's a lot of, I remember when Biden first came into office, President Biden, and just feeling a sense of relief, right? That Trump was leaving, Biden was coming in. I was at a gas station and it was later on in the evening and just a truck pulled up, there's Confederate flags and just the atmosphere of things. And so I know and am fully aware of what everyone is feeling, right? And even with the calls, like all last week, the calls, there was a theme, where your teams are feeling emotions, you are feeling emotions. So how are we going to get through it, right? What are we going to do? And so that's the purpose of this. And so if this is resonating with you, please pass it along, please share it, because what I'm choosing to believe and how I'm choosing to show up in this season is I am not going to be in the boat, right? My clients know one thing about me, is I'm not going to get in the boat with you. And I'm always very clear about that. When I'm working with you, I can't be in the boat with you. You can be in the boat. I can't be in the boat, but we both can't be in the boat. And especially if the boat is going down, it's not good for both of us to be in the boat, right? Somebody has to be coming from a stance of what's the solution here? What do we need to do? What's the outside the box thinking? The person who outside perspective, right? So that's who I'm going to be for you through this season. I am not going to be in the boat with you. We both cannot be in the boat, but we are going to get through it. So I'm standing next to you. I'm a resource for you. I want to make sure that you're good. This episode, what I want to make sure that you're aware of, this is not doom and gloom. This is more about hope and what we can control, because that's what we have to focus on in these times, right? When things aren't going the way that we want them to go, and we have whole businesses that we're managing, and we have whole people who are relying on us to pay bills, we can't be in the boat, right? So I'm going to talk to what does it look like to be a leader during this time, so that way you can be good, right? You can make sure that you're in the best place possible, because there are some things, like I've done a lot of research. I've listened to some other folks like in the financial space, and just making sure, like as I was recording this, that the nuggets that I'm getting ready to go through are tangible. And it's things that you can do, and it's not just all in theory, right? So these are things that we can actively do. And some of it, it's not all bad. Like, it really isn't. It's not all bad. Like, I know that we all have our emotions that we're feeling, and just it's the delivery. It's like the delivery is like, what is, whoa, so if we choose, we can definitely log on to the reality show on a day-to-day basis if we choose to. I'm choosing not to, and I'm choosing to look at, okay, what makes sense? What makes sense for me? What makes sense for my clients? What makes sense for my business? What makes sense for their businesses? What makes sense where we're talking about healthcare? And that's what I'm coming from. So let's go ahead and dive into this. All right, let's go ahead. So if you have a notebook, pen, of course, make sure that you're writing it down. And these are just four things that we're going to do. So I'm going to go ahead and start with all the executive orders. So I remember watching, like, catching the glimpses of the news, CNN and all the stuff. And there's over 200 executive orders that he has signed and all of these things. And so when I'm talking about, just everything that Trump is already starting to put into play, there is a lot. But the executive orders, when he was elected in his first term in office, he did one executive order. For this inauguration, he did 26. But as of January 22nd, he's at 28. So this is per USA Today. He's at 28. For his first term, he only completed 220 executive orders, right? President Obama, during his first term completed 147 executive orders, and his second term 129. President Biden did 162 executive orders. We have to be careful as we're taking information in, as headlines are being developed. But as of date, this is as of January 22nd, there's 28 executive orders that have officially been signed and starting to go into place. The other thing, because some of the rights and things that are just being yanked by the signature, some of it is outside of the authority that a president can actually do. So once it goes through, once it gets recognized, okay, you're saying this, but I don't know if it's really in your wheelhouse, then there is a process that has to go through, which is why more times than not, there's not always a lot of executive orders on first day. There are records. Like, if you go back and look at past presidencies, there's like records of people where they ended up with like 300 and some odd executive orders during their term. And so, I would not be surprised if Trump definitely goes after a record, because that seems like right along his type of personality. However, not everything is going to be able to take place, right? So even with those orders, like if you go back and do research with some of the orders, some of them had to be refined and revoked and denied because it was outside of their authority. Even though I know, even with administration and things, there's a lot of things that are being set up to his favor, there is still a process that we do have, which is good. And so we'll see how that process plays out, right? But I definitely just want to give some color to what's actually happened. And it's not where there's 200 some odd executive orders. That's what he had his first term. So when we're thinking about what is happening, then that brings me to point number one of the four things that we're going to do. We're going to protect our mindsets, right? So you are going to make sure that you are set up for success when it comes to your emotional and mental well-being, like hands down, like your mindset, all of it. Like the biggest asset that we have is us, right? And so yes, there's different assets when we think about business and things, but at the end of the day, our vision, us being good as CEOs, is the most important. If we are not good, if we are emotionally unwell, if we are not feeling inspired, then it's very hard and challenging to do anything, right? So we have to make sure that we're in a place where we can show up and that we can actually do the work and be there for our teams. So it goes back to the point of people are depending on us. People are putting their eggs in the basket of, hey, I know you're going to be okay and I'm going to be able to pay my mortgage and my rent, right? So we have to protect us as the asset. So what does this look like? Paying attention. Like I said, you can turn on a daily episode of of Trump news and see something different every single day, right? It's literally a reality show in the making. You can choose whether or not to watch it. So paying attention to what news channels that you're taking in, social media that you're taking in, if there's certain folks who are just giving you the doom and gloom or the clickbait type of titles and things, then and you can tell that your energy feels shifted and not in a good way, unsubscribe, unfollow, turn off, right? So choose not to engulf in that. So you want to be coming from a place of empowered. You want to be informed, but you don't want to be a consumer, right? You don't want to be consumed. You want to be informed. That's the motto here. I want to be informed. I don't want to be consumed. So if you are just scrolling and you are just seeing all this stuff, or if you are watching the news or you're reading the news or you're with family members who are coming from a different perspective, because more times than not, maybe they're not an entrepreneur, they're not a business owner, maybe they're not doing personal development. Watch your space, right? Like, and this is super important at this point in time. One of the things I wholeheartedly believe, and one of the things that I do to make sure that I'm set up for success, is coaching and therapy. Can't go wrong. You cannot go wrong as an entrepreneur. So looking at who do you have to make sure that you're good? Who do you have that is going to make sure that you are being poured into from a positive standpoint, right? And so just making sure that you're paying attention to those things. And who are you surrounding yourself, right? So we are, what is that? The combination of the 5 people that we spend the most time around. So if you are hanging out with people who are not giving you inspiration, or who are not pouring into you to give you solutions, right? Or who are just in this negative mindset, then you need to find new people, right? You need to surround yourself with somebody different. And it's not saying that those folks are bad. These people might be in your family. It's not saying that you can never talk to them ever again, but you just have to be mindful, right? And that's more important now than ever. Like, be mindful. Definitely continue to focus on what you have control over. We cannot control what executive order is going to come out next. We have no control over that. We have no control over some of the conversations that might be happening in the White House, even as I'm recording this. What we do have control, we have control over how involved we are in our community. We have control over the conversations that we're having with people. We have we have control over, again, what we're consuming. We have control over how we're showing up from a political stance. So if you don't like something, what's the process to change it? You know, there's a lot of things that we can do when it comes to freedom of speech. I mean, there's so much, right? So there's the bad, what I'll call, like, there's freedom of speech, and then there's just shenanigans of freedom of speech. But we can always insert the positive things that we can do. And so it always comes back to, what can you control and what are you going to do to make the impact that you want to make, right? So when we're thinking about this, it's more or less of taking your power back when it comes to your business. So that brings me to number 2. So paying attention to the business landscape, right? So we're now into a new era. We're now into a new term. Things are going to change when it comes to the economy. Things are going to change when it comes to certain programs that we might have access to, right? And so we want to make sure that we're paying attention to what's happening with business in some specialty landscapes. So if we go back and we look at some of the things that Trump did with the last term, there are things that he changed in healthcare, right? We know that there's also some things that he's revoking when it comes to payers, and he did that in the last term, where he took away some of where people couldn't choose what they wanted for their payers to do. So he did remove some of the bottlenecks and obstacles, if you go back and look at some of the research. So just paying attention to what's happening in business for my specialty, what's happening in business for, my market, in doing your own research. Don't just, again, TikTok might have its place. Instagram might have its place, Facebook might have its place, LinkedIn might have its place, but do your own research. Be informed, not consumed. So some of the things that you do, like platforms that you can pay attention to and people that you need to surround yourself with, is definitely the SBA, so the Small Business Association. So any programs, one thing with Trump is he does run, and I heard this on another podcast and completely agree, he runs the country like a business. And also, because he has his own businesses, a lot of the stuff that he's implementing, especially when it comes to tax credits or stocks and things, he's doing it to benefit himself. So he's always going to make sure that he's good. We know that. So at the end of the day, when we're thinking about how can we be informed, what programs are being created, right? Like what's happening on the business side? When we're thinking about tax strategies, do we have the right tax strategy in place? What tax credits can we start taking advantage of that maybe weren't there in the last 4 years? So making sure that you're surrounded with the right accountant, especially if you are past 7 figures, and definitely getting into like the higher multi-sixes, tax strategy starts to become way more important. So you have to have the right partners. It's not just enough to file taxes. You have to start making certain decisions throughout the year to make sure that you're set up for success. So tax strategy, investing opportunities, because stocks did do better, during that time. So do you have a good financial planner? Are you investing? Are you looking at wealth building opportunities? So making sure, again, that you're surrounded by the right people who can set you straight and to give you the right mindset compared to the whole world is going down. Nobody can make any money. We can't run like that. We can't run a business like that. And we have to be set up for success. So making sure that you are thinking about, again, SBA, tax strategy, investing opportunities, and that you are surrounded by the right team members when it comes to that financial pillar to set you up for success, right? So that's number 2. Number 3 is paying attention to the economy from your patient's lens, from your patient and clients. What are they viewing? Because again, a small percentage of them might be business owners, entrepreneurs, but more times than not, they're consuming CNN and maybe Fox News or whatever, MSNBC, like all the stuff, all the news channels, they're consuming that. They're reading the news. So from a business perspective, stepping into their shoes and then thinking about too, some of the executive orders that are coming through that are impacting healthcare, how is that going to impact them? We know that there's going to be a big change when it comes to some of the government resources. So this is Medicare and Medicaid. What's your solution for that? Have you thought about it? Are you thinking about it, especially if those are payers that you take? If you have a high population of Medicare or a high population of Medicaid, so there's some of the definitely services and things that are being provided, that's going to change. So really stepping into your patient's shoes and being prepared and creating a solution for their problem, right? So whenever we have practices and we are marketing and we are providing services, those services are a solution to the problem. So how can you continue to be a solution for the problem? So being proactive when you do that. So even going back to, I'm not getting in the boat with you. Don't get in the boat with your clients. Don't get in the boat with your patients. You have to pull yourself up and look at things from a higher level. So that way you can make the business decisions that you need to make and not just be, woe's me. I'm right there with you. Oh my gosh. No, you can't afford to do that, right? There's too much at stake. So paying closer attention. Number 4, we're going to stay close to our teams. We are going to make sure that our teams are good. So even with all the DEI and all the programs that are being just yanked from, as we're watching it, that doesn't mean that we cannot have an engaged business culture, right? That doesn't mean that we can't have expectations and values inside of our businesses that require for us to respect one another, require for us to make sure that patients who come through the door feel appreciated, that as the team members are working together, they are appreciating each other and what each other brings to the table, the differences and the difference of experiences that we have and the richness that comes with everything that we are as beings, right? So when we're teaching that inside of our practices, and when we're teaching that as a business culture, and we're ingraining that through our mission and vision, and we're making sure that we're upholding our values, and we're asking our teams the right questions, not getting in the boat, that's what truly matters, right? Like, you have to be comfortable with having uncomfortable conversations. So getting real, like, how are you feeling? As a business owner, going back to number one, you're going to make sure you're good, right? You are going to have your community. You're going to have the people who are lifting you up. So that way, when you show up for your team, you can be in a position to lift them up. That's leading. So how are you feeling? Paying attention to how are they showing up? Having real conversations. But if you are just, everybody's in the same, oh goodness, same doom and gloom, that's not going to help anybody. And so we got to think about just the golden rule. There's a book, and I've talked about this, The Ultimate Question 2.0, and it's all about the golden rule. The golden rule is you treat others the way that you want to be treated. And that's very powerful. The other thing is, I think about Michelle Obama during this, when they go low, we go high. And that's what you have to do, right? So when it comes to your teams, be there for your team, but also make sure that you have that expectation that we're going to respect each other as we're working together. Because there's a lot of differences. As you know, there's a lot of differences that can come up. So that is number 4. Number 5, which is your bonus, is to keep going. Just keep going, keep going and keep moving and keep doing the amazing things that you're doing and keep making a difference. Healthcare can impact so many lives in so many different ways because there's such intimate conversations that happen, regardless of the type of clinician you are, regardless of the type of provider, regardless of the type of practice you have, the type of services you are providing. There's intimate conversations all day long. And from a team perspective, especially for your full-time folks, they spend more time inside of your office than what they do at home. So make it count, right? Make it count. Be aware of what's happening. Be informed of what's happening. But don't be consumed by what's happening. So I'm going to go back through the 4 points just to make sure that everybody is clear on what they are. So this is the 4 things that we're going to do in order to go through this next term and to be prepared. Number 1, we're going to protect our mindset and emotional well-being. Our mental. We are going to be good, right? We're going to make sure that we're good. We're going to pay attention to who we're surrounding ourselves with in community. I know for me this year, I specifically joined a mastermind to make sure I'm set up because I knew that there was going to be some changes coming down the pike and I wanted to be as informed as possible. For shameless plug, there is Private Practice CEO that is definitely available there for you. It is an amazing community, elite private practice owners doing amazing things. And that is already a support system for you. So we do in-person retreats. So we are actually gearing up to go to Miami in March. So we're going to be all right. For those clients, we're going to be all right. So it is important for you to have the community. You want to make sure that you have the right partners when it comes to your care, right? So therapist, coach, community, paying attention to what you're taking in, being mindful, turning it off, unfollowing, unsubscribing. Don't consume it. If it affects your energy, if it affects how you show up, change it, right? Control what you have control over. That's number 1. Number 2, pay attention to the business strategy because there's going to be some things. I'm telling you, if you stay down in the weeds, you're going to miss some opportunities. So stay informed. Keep the right partners around you. Pay attention to the financial pillar. Look at wealth building opportunities. Look at some of the programs that might be available to you as a business. Don't get consumed. Be informed. Number 3, pay attention to what's happening with your patients and clients. Be the solution to the problem. You don't be in the boat with them. Pay attention to some of the changes, and then for you to think about, okay, what's the solution for us inside of the practice? How are we going to continue to serve? How are we going to continue to make sure that people are set up for success? Also recognizing that with some of the changes, you might not be able to be there for everybody, right? So at the end of the day, our goal is for you to have a profitable practice. The reason why we want you to have a profitable practice is it allows for you to make more of an impact as you're out and about in the community. You can't make an impact in the community if you're broke. You can't make change if you are feeling defeated. So you have to make sure that you are, again, leading and not allowing for yourself to be defeated. And if you're feeling that defeated, it goes back to number 1. What do you need to show up? Number 4, stay close to your team. Make sure that your team is set up. Make sure that they understand the expectations for how they need to show up with each other and with patients and clients. And don't be shy about it, right? Have difficult conversations. Have real conversations. Again, just because some of these programs are being taken, or maybe the emphasis isn't as much, it does not mean that we have to treat each other like trash. It doesn't mean that we cannot respect one another as human beings. It doesn't mean that we have to go along with the times, right? We can do something different. We can choose different. That's our right. That's our freedom of speech. And then number 5 is your bonus. Keep going. Keep going because we need for you to keep going. Your patients and clients need for you to keep going. Our communities need for you to keep going. So keep going. Set yourself up for success. Give yourself what you need and keep going. So again, like Kendrick Lamar says, we gonna be all right. We are gonna be okay. So again, this is not the place to come if for doom and gloom. This is a place for you to come to be inspired. This is a place for you to come to feel okay with being who you are. This is a place where you can come to get some really great business tactics and leadership skills. And if you need deeper support, then Private Practice CEO is available to you because I want to make sure that you're good. So go ahead. You can see the link in the show notes and apply if you are definitely in a place of needing some additional support. So I am here with you. I'm standing with you, and keep me posted on how you're doing. And if this is an impactful episode for you, please share it. Please share it. We're going to have to come together in order to make sure that we can be a support to one another. So I will see you guys next time. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye. Thanks for listening today. I hope you enjoyed the episode and it empowers you as the CEO of your practice. If you enjoyed the podcast, please make sure you subscribe, share the message, and leave a review. If you want more information and support in growing and scaling your practice, click the link in the show notes to take advantage of our free resources or apply to work with me directly. Thanks again, and I'll see you next time.